MotoGP lights up Le Mans for the 25th year in a row as a loud and proud home crowd gets set for a thrilling climax to Super Saturday. Some 200 kilometres southwest of Paris, Le Mans is a track steeped in history. And up next at the Michelin Grand Prix of France, it's a fast and furious Tissot sprint. It's time for MotoGP. First built back in 1965, hosts its first Grand Prix here. 4 years later in 1969, the 4.19 kilometre, 2.6 mile Bugatti circuit in Le Mans, just 5 kilometres outside of downtown Le Mans. Hot pace in hot weather this morning. An all-time lap record going the way of Jorge Martin, the first rider around this Le Mans circuit to set a 1:29 lap in what was a breathtaking qualifying session this morning to kick off Super Saturday here in France. Sector 1, the high-speed sweep through turn 1 and turn 2, where Marc Marquez had an almighty scare in Q1 this morning. Hard braking into turn 8 and 9. Good overtaking opportunities around this tight stop-and-go Le Mans circuit. The lap completed by the double right-hander in the Recordement. 8, 9 and 11 are your most severe braking points around this Le Mans circuit, and through turn 1, that's where the high tyre stress zone features. Overtaking hotspots, well, there are plenty. Turn 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10. This was a key move here last year early on as Marc Marquez and Jorge Martin fought for a place on the podium 12 months ago. 13 days on from what was an all-time classic clash in Jerez, the Spanish Grand Prix. Jorge Martin blowing a big chance to move over 40 points clear in the World Championship when he made that mistake leading into turn 6. And then what followed was a clash of the titans in Andalusia. Paco Bagnaia, the world champion, and Marc Marquez fighting fire with fire, going toe-to-toe in a nail-biting, thrilling finish to that Spanish Grand Prix. It was Bagnaia, though, that took the checkered flag first. His third consecutive victory in the Spanish Grand Prix, and with Martin crashing out, we come into this Le Mans Grand Prix, 17 points between the top two in the championship. We have already had a day of high drama, high tension and some high stakes now to follow in the 13-lap Tissot sprint. 2 unbelievable qualifying sessions this morning, which saw Jorge Martin write his name in the history books here at the historic and iconic Le Mans. The first rider, the only rider in history here to find a lap in the 129s. A 15th career pole position in MotoGP for the Prima Pramac racing star, courtesy of that brilliant 129.919, which does not really tell the story of what we saw in front of a bumper crowd. It is a packed house here once again in Le Mans, as it always is. A record weekend crowd here 12 months ago to mark a milestone Grand Prix, the 1000th Grand Prix in history. A few expectations that we could actually, for the first time in Grand Prix history in our 75th year, top a weekend crowd of over 300,000. Is that on the cards for tomorrow? Well, in the present, we are looking forward to this Tissot sprint with Jorge Martin on pole despite a late crash in Q2 at turn 4. There was drama as well for world champion Paco Bagnaia. He just slotted himself into second place on the grid when he crashed at turn 9. Martin and Bagnaia then first and second the championship, first and second on the grid here in France, ahead of a Pretty Racing's Maverick Viñales, who's looked really strong, in real good nick so far this weekend. Viñales, a former Moto3 and MotoGP winner here in Le Mans. Marc Marquez has to go from 13th on the grid. The big scare, the incredible save coming through turn 2 this morning at around 130 miles an hour when the front end tucked on him on that Gresini Ducati. He did not get through Q1, and Brad Binder The South African has had an absolute shocker here so far in Le Mans. 3 crashes yesterday. Technical problems at the start of Q1 this morning means for just the 3rd time in his MotoGP career, Brad Binder starts outside of the top 20. He's dead last in 22nd place. Matt Burt, Lewis Sutterby in the commentary box. Simon Crafar, sun-drenched down on the grid ahead of this hugely anticipated 13-lap Tissot sprint. We've just seen his name feature, his picture come up on the big screens. That's why the French fans were going wild as they welcome the home crowd hero, Fabio Quartararo. He's had a superb weekend, Quartararo, so far. A big bonus yesterday, getting himself directly into Q2. And a 1:30.686 sees Quartararo go from the middle of the 3rd row, either side of, or in the middle of Pedro Acosta and Frankie Morbidel's best qualifying in 7 since Sepang. Lewis, this morning, we always hype it up, don't we, as a Super Saturday. It delivered and some this morning. Drama in both sessions when you think what happened to Marc Marquez and Brad Binder. And then our top 2 qualifiers crashing at the end of that enthralling, exhilarating Q2. I think we're in for some show this afternoon.
Certainly looks like it. Set up beautifully with the top 2 in the World Championship starting 1st and 2nd on the grid in front of an incredible setting. A fantastic French crowd that has turned out on this Super Saturday, and boy have their 2 riders done them proud so far. Fabio Quartararo 8th on the grid, which is nothing short of heroic. Johann Zarco once again the top Honda qualifier, so they've certainly produced their very best for their home crowd here today. In terms of the battle at the front, so much to get excited about with Martin and Bagnaia either side of their mistakes in qualifying this morning, put in fantastic laps, as you say, the first ever sub 90-second lap of this circuit from this man, Jorge Martin, who I guess is looking to put that Jerez mishap out of his system. Whatever happens, he will lead the World Championship at the end of this Tissot sprint, but he'll be looking to secure a dozen sprint wins at the same circuit where he took his first.
It was 11th heaven last time out in the Tissot sprint for Jorge Martin. His 2nd Tissot sprint win of the season in Jerez. Didn't go his way on the Sunday in the main Grand Prix. Will it be a delightful dozen, a dream dozen here today for Martin? He has been the Tissot sprint king. His Tissot sprint love affair, as Lewis mentioned, it all kicked off here, didn't it, 12 months ago when he won for the first time on Super Saturday. The drone shots bringing us these fantastic shots down on the grid. The fans have been inside this Bugatti circuit, I'm told, since about 6 a.m, 6:30 a.m. this morning, trying to get the best vantage point. Hot weather, the hottest ticket in world sport this weekend here. As Pecco Bagnaia, can he end this barren run in the Tissot sprint? What is it now? No sprint win in 13 since the Red Bull Ring last August. No sprint podium in 6 since Sepang. At least he's righted some wrongs in qualifying this year. I can't believe this. Bagnaia's first front row start of 2024 coming up shortly.
Well, it didn't hold him back in Jerez, did it? On that first lap of the Grand Prix, when, boy, did he produce a world champion first lap of the race to go from 7th to 1st. Doesn't quite have as much work to do this time, although it is one of those particularly long stretches from the start line to the first braking point, which is all the way up at the Dunlop chicane, turn 3. So you can sometimes find yourself punching a big hole for the pack behind you. Looking to ride straight into that slipstream is this man, Marc Marquez. It's of course a surprise to see him 13th on the grid, but it's probably fair to say that Marc Marquez hasn't been his usual self this weekend. Hasn't never looked his fully comfortable so far as the 93. Found himself in the jungle of qualifying 1, and with so many high profile and strong adversaries in that session, it was always going to be a tall order to get out of that session, particularly with this man, and Bastianini going through Q1. Marc Marquez was unsuccessful after a huge moment rounding turn number 2, which could have been a lot worse than it was. It means that the 93 is going to have to get his overtaking boots on this afternoon. Yeah, and he will know that there was plenty more on the table for him here today. Marc Marquez in Q1 set a 1:30.586, which actually would have been good enough for the 7th fastest time in Q2. And you've got to feel that Marquez could have found at least 3 or 4 tenths on that 1:30.5. So he'll be kicking himself, he'll be frustrated. As Lewis mentioned, it has not been a comfortable ride so far this weekend on that Gresini Ducati GP23. He's not looked comfortable, he's not looked confident, he's certainly not looked smooth.
So Marc Marquez has an awful lot of work to do from 13th place on the grid. I suppose if he needs some inspiration, just look back to Pecco Bagnaia, came from 13th to win the Mandalika Grand Prix in Indonesia last year. Hottest conditions of the weekend so far. The fans in their tens of thousands who've packed into Le Mans, well, they're soaking up some glorious sunshine. 26 degrees is the ambient temperature. Surely, with the hot conditions and the stress in these hard braking zones, we're going to see everybody go for the hard Michelin front tyre, soft rear tyre. High hopes, high expectations certainly from the Iwali factory, with Aprilia Racing's Maverick Vinales firing from the front row of the grid. Aleix Espargaro, despite a late crash for him in Q2, he's at the back of the second row, so Aprilia well placed for a top result in this 13-lap Tixo sprint. What does the boss think? Paolo Bonora, will he join Simon? Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Yes, good afternoon. It's a hot afternoon, actually, hottest so far this weekend. Paolo, both of your riders on the first two rows, and Maverick all weekend has been saying if he can have a good start position, good start, he can fight for the win. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. First two row is something that we are searching since Friday, so we like so much at this circuit. Both riders like that. And the race pace for, in particular, Vinales is good. So finger crossed, and we are looking for the good race.
Before I let you go, can you tell us who you think will be there in the fight for the podium?
Oh, I hope there will be few Aprilias there.
Hey, thank you. Good luck.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Paolo Bonora. He's been here, done it, and got the T-shirt already in 2024, hasn't he? And the gold medal, Maverick Vinales, the Tixo sprint winner, both in Portimao and in such brilliant fashion when he did the dream double at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Keep a close eye on Vinales, because, as Paolo Bonora quite rightly pointed out, his race pace this weekend has caught the eye. He has certainly got the potential to go with and beat the likes of Martin and Bagnaia. He's a big danger man from the back of that front row.
Which makes the start all important, I think, for Maverick Vinales, to ensure that he's still in that leading 2 or 3 by the time he gets to the exit of the Dunlop chicane. Of course, it is a kind of corner that can often produce trouble. Very, very tight and twisty section of the circuit. So if you find yourself in that midfield pack, very, very easy to get tangled up in someone else's accident. So important for the Aprilias to get themselves on the front two rows of the grid. Aleix Espargaro starting in 6th, behind the two Pertamina Enduro VR46 Ducatis, and ahead of, well, Pedro Acosta and Fabio Quartararo, arguably 2 of the 3 most popular riders in this Bugatti circuit at Le Mans at the moment.
Yeah, Fabio Quartararo getting another roar from the home fans, and of course, because he rides for the Tech 3 team, he's been adopted by the French fans, hasn't he, this weekend. Has Pedro Acosta going from 7th place on the grid. Superb performance this morning by the Pertamina Enduro VR46 Racing Team duo. Fabio Di Gianantonio, 4th place on the grid. Marco Bezzecchi, winner of the French Grand Prix last year, 1 place behind in 5th. Let's get some thoughts from VR46 Racing's Pablo Nieto, who joins Simon.
He does. Pablo, both your riders on the second row, great performance, great opportunity to do something here. And I've got to say, Fabio Di Gianantonio looking good all weekend. Marco's pace, I think he can get on the podium. Do you?
I don't know. I will let you later. But it's going to be very, very hard. We know that on this track, all the riders are very, very fast. It's really, very important, the first 2 laps. And then when you make off these 2 laps, you have to see where you are and then try to make a very good race.
Good luck doing that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Pablo Nieto. Yeah, Fabio Di Gianantonio has dipped under the radar a little bit this weekend. The 25-year-old Italian, and the 8th time in 45 MotoGP races, he starts inside the top 6.
Where he starts from 4th, Jorge Martin, Pecco Bagnaia and Maverick Vinales immediately ahead of him. Di Gianantonio, Bezzecchi and Aleix Espargaro on your second row of the grid. Pedro Acosta starts 7th ahead of Fabio Quartararo and Frankie Morbidelli. And Enea Bastianini lines up in 10th. Jack Miller in 11th, the sole rider at the moment on the soft front tyre, with Miguel Oliveira in 12th. Marquez, Fernandez, Zarco on row 5 from Rins, Alex Marquez and Joan Mir bringing up the rear at the back of the grid. Taka Nakagami, Augusto Fernandez, Luca Marini, and of course the out of position Brad Binder
Yeah, certainly is out of position in dead last in 22nd place. Now then, a first front row start of the year for reigning world champion Pecco Bagnaia. Can he capitalise on that and take his first sprint win of the season? And now Bastianini was a bit unfortunate this morning, missing out with yellow flags and a technical issue which sees him start 10th. He's got great race rhythm as well. Let's get some thoughts of their team manager Davide Tardozzi is with Simon.
He is. Davide, like Matt Burt just said, feeling sorry for Enea because his pace looked to be there. But anyway, on the front row, you've got two GP24s, and Pecco Bagnaia in the middle and Jorge Martin. On paper, they look the fastest. What is your thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. I think that Jorge and Pecco will fight for the win, while if Enea, never say never, because if Enea have a good start, I think that he has absolutely the race pace for the podium. So we see what's going to happen in the first couple of laps, because if he can overtake a few riders and be at least 6 or 7, 5, 6 or 7 on the second lap, I think that the podium is there.
Thank you, Davide.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Davide Tardozzi. So Bagnaia not on pole position for a change here in Le Mans as he was in 2022 and 2023. Look at that. What a sight that is. This is what it's all about, isn't it? The French Grand Prix, glorious sunshine, the world's fastest motorcycles with the world's best riders twisting the throttle on them. It does not get any better than this, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue the countdown. We're just about 8 minutes away from lights out for this 13-lap Tissot sprint. Martin firing from pole, his 25th front row start in the MotoGP World Championship. Not the time that Marc Marquez wanted to qualify outside the top 10 in MotoGP for the first time at Gresini Ducati, the first time in his career at Le Mans. There is Maverick Viñales in the zone, trying to make it 3 Tissot sprint wins so far this year. In the first 4 Super Saturdays of the season, well, the wins have been split by that young man on screen, Jorge Martin, and Maverick Viñales. Let's hope it's, well, we want to see as much drama as we saw in the Jerez sprint a couple of weeks ago, but maybe just
down a touch.
Yeah, I was going to say, just maybe a few less crashes and a few more finishes would go down a tree. Well then, it was something special, wasn't it? A pleasure to witness the explosive one-lap pace of Jorge Martin on course for that 1:29.919 that took him to pole position this morning. Let's get some thoughts from his team boss, Gino Borsoi. He's with Simon.
Gino, incredible lap from Jorge. A wild-looking crash, through the chicane there, but he looks okay. Frankie on the third row, give us your thoughts.
Wow, for sure, he made an incredible lap time this morning. I'm really happy because the balance of the bike is what he liked. So it means that also for the race could be also the perfect day today, but let's see. Anyway, what is good is also Morbidelli in the third row. He come back again in a good position, and I'm pretty sure, as I said several times, that he will be part of the game sooner or later, and could be one of the good race for him today.
Thank you, Gino. Good luck.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Gino Borsoi. Jorge Martin, unbeatable on Friday, led both practice sessions yesterday. He was unbeatable in qualifying earlier on this morning. Will he be unbeatable in this 13-lap Tissot sprint coming your way? There's his teammate, Frankie Morbidelli, who looks like he is slowly but surely, which is inevitable after he missed the whole of pre-season testing through injury. He's getting his head around what he needs to get the best out of himself on that Ducati GP24. And Gino Borsoi feels like the first big result for Frankie is imminent. Well, will it be this afternoon as he goes from 9th place, the back of the third row? Yeah,
third consecutive Q2 appearance for Frankie Morbidelli, and equalled his best ever sprint result at Jerez last time out. Well, it's not quite as tall an uphill struggle for Fabio Quartararo in the Tissot sprint here. 23rd on the grid he started the last Tissot sprint in Jerez, came through to finish 3rd on the road before he received a penalty that relegated him to 5th. Superhuman, even by Fabio Quartararo's very high standards. Can he produce something remotely similar to that here this afternoon? If fan power was enough, Fabio Quartararo would be about to win this Tissot sprint, but he's got to do it all himself. But he's already done his home fans proud to this point. Can he do something similar in the sprint? Yeah, feeding off the energy created by the fervent French fans here. They always do create the atmosphere, something quite unique, something quite special.
they were here on the campsites. The campsites were pretty lively on Thursday, well, Wednesday night actually, before 2 days before we turned the wheel in anger here in Le Mans. Aleix Espargaro was saying that it was so noisy last night, he thought there was a party going on in the next room at his motorhome. I thought he'd spent a lot of money getting his motorhome soundproof. Nothing, though, will drown out the campsites. Nothing will drown out the roars of these French fans who, once again, we thank them so much, they have turned out in their tens and tens of thousands. So I'm just reporting from down in pit lane that we thought in the hot conditions we might have everybody on the hard front, soft rear tyre, but maybe a couple of gambles coming from the KTM. It wouldn't be a surprise, would it, for Brad Binder, who finds himself all the way back in last place. It's only the third time in 77 MotoGP races, as we mentioned, he's missed qualifying in the top 20. His worst starting position since the Japanese Grand Prix in 2017 when he was in Moto 2.
Yeah, certainly looking at the grid lineup that we had a few moments ago, it looks as if you're on a KTM and you're not named Pedro Acosta, you might well have taken that gamble. We'll get further confirmation in the run-up to the start of this Tissot Sprint as to what they finally decided on. Marc Marquez looking to try and plot his route through the 4 rows on the grid up ahead of him. If you want some inspiration, third place in the Tissot Sprint in Barcelona came from 16th on the grid in the form of Dani Pedrosa. Marc Marquez will need something quite special to get through the pack. From there, expect some early aggression from the 8 times world champion.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, keep a close eye on Marquez on that 5th row alongside Raul Fernandez and Johan Zarco. BMW safety car then peels away at the front of the grid. Resplendent in this beautiful May sunshine here in France, in France's Sarthe region, in the Loire Valley. Who's going to be getting a gold medal around their neck in, what, about 30 minutes' time? Just about 2.5 minutes away from lights out. Front row of the grid then. 3rd front row in the last 4 Grand Prix for Aprilia's Maverick Viñales, the Top Gun, looking for a 3rd Tissot Sprint victory of 2024. Pecco Bagnaia, the reigning world champion, his first front row start of the season. Can he end his winless run in the Tissot Sprint? And Jorge Martin with a record-busting lap time this morning, going for a 12th Tissot Sprint win here in Le Mans.